And good morning, ladies and gents. Today I wanted to give you some background on a couple of the specific problems that we're doing today with quadratic formula. So with quadratic formula, hopefully you can get this memorized because this will help going forward for any of your classes. But remember, it's x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. And it is the entire thing over 2a. Right, this whole piece, not just this half, not just that half, but the entire numerator over 2a. Right, so the first thing you have to do is make sure that it is equal to 0. Later on, we'll get to problems that don't have a 0, so you have to move the number over. But since you have a 0, we can set out a equals 2. Right, first number with the x squared is always a. The number with regular x is going to be your b, including your sign. And c is the last number or our constant, so it's negative 63. So literally, this is paint by numbers. Plug the b's in, the a's in, the c's in, and work this out. Right, so the first part is, since it's negative b, and we have a negative 5, we make that a positive 5. Plus or minus always stays. This is b squared minus 4 times a, which is right there, and c, which is right there. Right, all over the 2a. Don't forget the 2a. A lot of students forget this and it just disappears. So then as we come over, what I focus on is underneath your radical. This is actually called your discriminant. We'll get to that later. But these numbers underneath, the b squared is 25. And all three of these numbers being multiplied is positive 504. One trick I like to do too is a lot of students mess up the signs. So I multiply negative times positive times negative is a positive. I put that there first, and then I'll work out the numbers. Or either way, you can just multiply negative 4 times 2 times negative 63. Okay, so keep simplifying under the radical. That gives us 529. And the nice part is radical 529, if you put that in your calculator, right, that's actually going to come up. And by the way, calculator-wise, when you put that in your calculator, you will have to use the other version of, this is just the computer calculator. So make sure you can use a square root or some kind of root for that, whether you have a calculator at home or this one. Remember, you can go into your calculator settings and get the scientific one. But if I do 529 and hit the radical, it's going to give you that 23 number, which is right here. Now let me move this out of the way. All right, so do the square root, you'll get a nice whole number. And from there, you'll see these two arrows. I split it into two problems. One problem with the plus from the plus or minus. One problem with the minus from the plus or minus. So here's where you would split it. Right? Then add the top, which is 28 over 4, so that gives you a 7. Do the other one, which is a negative 18 over 4, which gives you negative 4.5. And those are your two solutions. So that's number 1. All right, so that should help out going through with those actual numbers. And that's number 1. So I've got a couple more for you here. Here's number 2. Number 2, same thing. I'm just going to go through a little quicker. A is your number in front. That's 1. Don't forget there is a 1 there. If you need to put it in. There's your 1. B is negative 12. C is negative 85. Plug it all in. And focus on that discriminant. So negative 12 squared is 144. Negative 4 times 1 times negative 85 is 340 positive. And add those together, you're going to get 484. Right? Everything else comes along for the ride. The B in front, the 2A in the bottom. I simplify the 2A, it's pretty easy. But then inside this 484, again, do that radical on your calculator, and you'll get 22. So now here we're at the point where we do plus and minus. We split them up. There's a plus. The bottom one becomes the minus. 12 plus 22 is 34 over 2 is 17. The bottom is negative 10 over 2, which is negative 5. So once you do that, you get your two solutions of 17 and negative 5. All right, so not too bad, but the one more I want to get to is down below here. So this is number 10. The only difference here is you're going to have some radicals in your answer. And this is where we're going to get to with today and for your quiz for tomorrow as well. So on this same thing, A is 6, B is 12, C is negative 3. Plug it into your quadratic formula. this top discriminant or under the radical becomes 144 plus 72, and it gives you radical 216. Now, sometimes you get a nice whole number, sometimes you don't. In this problem, we're going to have to reduce the radical. This is why we did the reducing radicals earlier last week. So we have to reduce this by the tree or by the perfect squares. So let me just bring your attention over here now. So here's that radical 216. And just to remind you, radical 216, break it down with the trees, right? Here's your trees, 2 and 108, 254. Keep going. And look at all of the ends of your branches. Since I have one pair of 2s, that's this 2 here. One pair of 3s, that's this 3. And any leftovers go inside. So that 2 and 3 are this 2 and this 3. So multiply what's in front, you get this 6. Multiply what's inside, you get this 6. It just happens to be both the same number. So if you do get 6 radical 6, that's going to replace this radical 216, which is here. And we're almost done. This is a really good answer, except look at this, the 12, the 6, and this 12. I kind of circle these 3. Notice I'm not doing anything with that radical that's here. That stays by itself. But always look if there's a GCF for 12, 6, and this 12. Well, I know that 2 goes into all these, but I know that 6 goes into all. If I divide them all by the highest number that's divisible, right? 12 divided by 6 is 2. It's a negative 2. 6 divided by 6 is 1. You really don't need the 1 there, so I leave it out. And 12 divided by 6 is that 2. So we only reduce the 3 numbers that are in front of the radical. You don't touch the radical. Right? Radical stays there. And all those numbers are there, and this is reduced. That's your answer. So some of the trickier problems you're going to have a radical in your answer, which you might have seen yesterday, and this is for today as well. So reduce those radicals. All right, so that's your answer. And one other thing, as you go through, you're going to see problems with no solution. If this radical, if that number underneath ever gives you a negative, that's when you're going to have a no solution. So if you work out a quadratic and you get down, reduce everything, and then there's a negative radical, that indicates no solution. All right, hopefully this helps. Watch this again if you need, and tomorrow, yes, we're going to do another worksheet on this, and it will be a graded assignment. So please do well and ask questions if you need, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.